Hello everyone, welcome to our lounge alley. This is Figure Drawing Basics part 56. I am your host. I'm going to jump into today's stream. Welcome to our lounge alley. That's weird. This is Figure Drawing Basics part 56. I am your host. I think I got I'm going to jump into today's stream. Welcome to our lounge alley. That's weird. Sorry about that, y'all. I had it open. Some weird glitches there. So I'm gonna jump into it real quick. But first, I'm gonna introduce you guys to the Patreon page. So this is it. We got tier 1 official patron, $2 per month. As you guys could see, most popular. It's pretty affordable. You get access to the Discord server, and your patron name is listed in the credits. Next, we got tier 2 all access patrons. $5 per month, and in this tier you guys get access to all of my work, including early access to finished pages and exclusive content. You also get work in progress, behind scenes, things like speed painting videos. You guys get to see the full process from start to finish, and you get the previous tier benefits as well: access to the Discord server and your name, patron name listed in the credits. I am going to start doing credits at the end of the stream once you guys start pledging in there, as a way to say thanks for keeping the stream going and supporting the Art Lounge Alley. Next, we got tier 3 critique submission tier, $15 per month. It allows you guys to be part of the Art Lounge Alley stream. You just got to submit something that you're working on. Once you pledge to this tier, you get access to the Discord server. You could send me a private message. You could send me the image that you'd like to have critiqued on stream. And that will be held every Friday from 8 until 10 p.m. So for 2 hours straight, I'm going to be critiquing your work, showing you some tips, showing you where you could improve on that, on the drawing. And just general guidance. There is a couple of things to note, so if you guys want to take a look and read at your own pace, check it out. It's in the About section of the Patreon page, not the Patreon page, the Twitch channel. It's all the way on the right side. You'll see it along with the other social media links there. Next, we got Kickstarter patron, $25 per month. For pledging to this tier, you get a high-resolution digital painting of you done live on stream. That's going to be on Thursdays from 8 until 10. So the critique is going to be on Fridays from 8 until 10, and the Kickstarter patron is going to be on Thursdays from 8 until 10. I encourage you guys to get creative, show your individuality, express yourself there by wearing masks, makeup, glasses, make expressive face expressions, hats, and accessories. They're all welcome. Not required. You could send me just a photo of yourself from your head down to your chest, and I'll start doing the live high resolution digital painting of you on stream. You could also try out, if you're into costumes, if you're into cosplay or whatnot, you can dress up as that, and I'll do a high resolution digital painting of you done with that as well. Next, we got tier 4 artist promotion tier. So for this one, this is mainly for intermediate or advanced artists who want to promote their work, who want to promote their body of work that they've been developing. This one has a pretty long list of things you guys want to read through. It does require for you to submit a 5-minute video just to showcase what you got, talk about it at your own pace, introduce it in your own style, do whatever you want with it. It's really a matter of just how creative you want to get with it. So I think creating a video and sending that in to be streamed on stream on the Art Lounge Alley is probably the best way to go about it. It allows you guys to be more connected with your work while viewers are checking it out. I will be promoting you at the beginning of the stream. During the stream, before I show the video, I'm going to show the link to your website or social media platform, or both. You got both there. That way you can have more people from all the different platforms that I advertise on funneled to your website, to your profiles, for them to check out what's going on, what you got cooking. It's open to all sorts of artists. It's not just illustrators. So if you know anybody who is developing some work, they'd like to be part of an artistic community, promote their work, that sort of thing, introduce them to the Art Lounge Alley. I'd be happy to have them on here. So yeah, you could see there's a list of all different types of art and self-expression on there. So it's not just for illustrators. But take your time, read through it. If you got any questions, don't hesitate. Send them away. I will read them and write you back, talk about it in the next stream. Or you could send me your questions in chat. I'd be happy to answer them and talk about it on stream. Next, we got the last one. This is tier 5, which is really tier 6. Since Kickstarter patron isn't really a tier that I put in. But I will fix that. Private tutoring, limited to 15 people. You get 4 personal video lessons per month, so 1 video lesson per week. I will also send you a PSD file for whatever it is that I'm going to be working on. So you got to submit something that you're working on, and I will guide you through that. We could also talk about what it is that you want to learn. Once you pledge to this tier, you have access to the Discord server. You'll also have a private Discord channel just for you. So each of the patrons, all 15 of you, will have a private Discord channel just between me and you. So you could leave me questions, you could leave me comments, you could leave me your progress, whatever it is that you're working on. Nobody else is going to see it. It's just going to be between me and you. That way we can just set the sail and start helping you improve, get it going. That pretty much does it. This is just a general quick overview of things. I don't want to get too much into detail with it. I'd like to start the stream. But as I mentioned, you guys can take your time, read through it, and ask away. Ask any questions you got. So that pretty much does it, y'all. And I am going to jump into today's stream. So yesterday I felt like it was important to mention or to really do an overview, a quick overview of a very important lesson that I think everybody could benefit from, whether you're intermediate, advanced. It gives you an opportunity to remember these principles, these measurement principles, how to draw the figure. I'm going to continue to do another demonstration here, which is basically the same thing as this. It's combined together and gives you more of like a condensed version. So I'm going to start off the same way I started off before. I'm going to set parameters. I'd like the figure to be this tall. Remember, I'm doing it from head to toe. I'm going to draw the line down the middle. Very important to include the line down the middle because it is your balance line. So since this is going to be a pretty much straight on image, you want to make sure everything is centered. You don't want it to start leaning to the left. By the time you get to the feet, it's like on the right side slightly. So the line down the middle ensures that. It also makes it easier for you to compare both sides to see how proportionate it is, how balanced it is. Like if you're drawing the head, for example. And I kind of took a shortcut here because really you should be starting out with a circle and then adding the cup shape at the bottom for the head. Notice I'm keeping a distance from the tip of the pencil. It allows me to have an overview of the entire image. I'm not going to get into too much detail. Once again, I want to make sure everything fits into the parameters that I set in. So this is just like a general kind of quick sketch. So now that's there. Let's go over what we learned above, right? We learned that for the top part of the body, it is, let's just say that first half of it is 2 heads. So let's measure this. That's 1 head. It's 2 heads right there. So I'm going to make the mark right here. And then down to the waist. It's 3. Just measure that one more time to make sure it's pretty accurate, right? And then from the waist down to the groin area, that's another head. We might have to do a little bit of adjustment in order to make sure that it all fits. As I mentioned, it's more important that it fits into what I set the parameters to be. So we're going to work through that, make sure that that's going to be the case. So there you go. That's the groin area right there. Notice that, see how important it is to draw lightly, because when you make the adjustments, it's easier to start adjusting, start moving things, shifting things slightly, because they just didn't fit originally. Next, we got to make sure that the width of the body is 3 heads. So at the widest point in the head, right, which is usually the diameter of the circle, we're going to make sure that from the shoulders, right about there, it's 1 head, 2, 3. So that's about right. We got it right. The width of the body is supposed to be, including the shoulders, it's supposed to be 3 heads wide. So that turned out to be pretty good. And we're going to continue measuring down all the way to the feet. So we got to the waist, from the waist down to the groin, that's 4 heads. So remember, the top half of the body is 4 heads altogether. Bottom part of the body is 4 heads altogether as well. Pretty simple, not too much measurement there. So from the groin, that's 1. That's 2. That's where the knees should be. Halfway down to the shins, and then from the shins to about halfway point of, I'm going to say that's about right. Might have made it short here. Right, okay. And from there, it's about like halfway through the feet. So there you have it. You got the pretty much the entire figure measured using the head as the unit of measurement to make sure it's all proportionate. I'm going to use the cylinder shape as the defining point of the figure, of the leg, really even. Pretty much the entire figure is consisted of the cylinder shape in various sizes. So even the torso, that's a huge cylinder shape. It's like a cup, basically. You're drawing a big cup. Same thing for the waist, still pretty much a cylinder shape. And notice, pretty much most of them start out wide. I'll say for the limbs, they start out wide at the top and they taper off towards the bottom. So for the legs, let's say, wide at the top, and then they taper off towards the bottom where the knees are. And then from the knees, it's wide, just as wide as where it tapered off for the top part, and then again narrows down towards the bottom. And once you remember these principles, it's not as intimidating to draw the body, to tackle the figure. This entire guide that I just presented is just to help you guys understand it in a more simplified form, make it less intimidating. When you break it down to cylinder shapes, it's a lot easier than having to think about it in like really complicated muscles and so on and so forth. Now, here's another really important point. This is something I mention very often. Notice how the wrists, right, where the wrists taper off, they're way past the groin area. This is a very important detail. You don't want to give the guy stubby arms. And notice how the hands are past as well. They don't end right where the groin ends. The wrist doesn't end there. The fingers don't end there. They go past the groin area. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. So there you have it. The entire figure pretty much simplified using cylinder shapes and understanding the head as the unit of measurement. We're able to construct it in a pretty proportionate manner. And it's helpful to do this in every single sketchbook. This is something that I talked about yesterday. When you do it in your sketchbook, you could always refer to it as you go through the sketchbook. You know, the further you get down it, you can always flip back and be like, oh, right, it's supposed to be 4 heads for the top, up to the groin area. I'm going to write that down there for you. And then 4 heads from the groin area down to the feet. So 8 heads altogether. Now, the body tends to vary. There's 4 heads, which is like your ideal, I want to say, your ideal size. 4 heads for the top, 4 heads for the bottom. That is 8 heads altogether. That's the ideal form. Then we got 7.5, which is basically the same thing. For the upper part of the body, it stays the same. The only difference is the legs. The upper part of the legs, it's supposed to be instead of 2 heads down to the knees, it's 1. 1 head towards the knees, and then the same follows for the rest of it. So that's the only difference between the two, and those are the 2 sizes, the common sizes: 7.5 heads and 8 heads altogether. Now, another quick note here: how wide, right, is the arm supposed to be in comparison to the head? We figured out the torso, top part, is 3 heads across, including the shoulders. So how wide is the arm supposed to be? So let's take a look. It's supposed to be half the head. Another reason why you want to draw that line down the middle. It allows you to like measure things out as well. So I'm just going to take the pencil. I'm going to do from the widest point of the head and then measure that to the width of the arm. And that's right. It's about the same size. I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. Boom. So we got that down. That's one of them. Now you want to ask yourself, how wide is the leg supposed to be? We got it for the arms, and for the leg, it is 1 head. So at the widest point of the leg, it should be the same width as the widest point on the head. Boom, we got it. That worked out. And so there you go. Those are just some basic principles for you. The same thing for the waist. The waist is supposed to be 1.5 heads. So we're going to do a head and then 1/2 heads. So the size of the head is a little bit past the middle line, right? I'm measuring the widest point on both ends, on both features, I guess, body features. So the widest point, it's a little bit past this middle line, measuring a head. And then if you were to measure 1/2 head, look at that, matches up. So yeah, that's I like to use the pencil. I'm slightly lazy, even though the ruler is right there. It's really good to have a clear ruler, so that way you could do these measurements on your own. You got this right here. So as we saw, the widest point on the head, the widest point on the pelvic area. That's the line right there for it. And then we're going to measure 1/2 the head. And as you can see, it lines up with it. So keeping all these principles in mind, all these units of measurement really help you establish a good visual understanding of the body. This is like your alphabet right here. You know, the same way you got to recite the alphabet, the same way you got to recite visually what the figure looks like. And it works the same way. Once you understand and internalize all these units of measurement, once you start seeing the body in this proportionate way, you know, you draw it proportionally, you see it proportionally, it becomes ingrained in your head. And then eventually, just like the alphabet, you don't have to recite the alphabet every time. You know the letters. The same thing happens here. You won't have to draw out all these lines and constantly do these measurements. Eventually, you're just going to draw and it's going to look right. You know, your eye is naturally going to gravitate towards the right proportions and right anatomy. You know, you'll start to even notice it in other people's work as well. You know, like when I was younger and I was doing this stuff, I didn't notice some of the errors that I was making. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, that's atrocious. This is terrible. This doesn't look right at all. And that's because I've trained my eye to be better at recognizing these details. And I drew the figure so many times to see proportion better that I started to notice these things. And eventually you will too. If you're a beginner, you're starting out, it's the same exact thing. My point is really in all this is that it's not this magical thing that people have. You know, there's some people do have natural predisposition to drawing and understanding figures and you know, being quick about it and all that, but it's not exclusive to those kind of people. It's something that you could learn. You know, it's something that you repeat over and over again, and you become much better as you do. It's practice, you know, it's dedication. You do have to think about it as well. You know, it's not totally a mindless process, which I think a lot of people think is the case when it comes to illustrators. It's like they just pick up the pencil or pick up the brush and then instantly they're painting beautiful portraits and images without any hesitation or thought. You know, it's just like this magical element to it, and it's not like that. I think for a lot of artists, it is a thought process. It's something that they manifest through their ideas, through focusing on the drawing and really thinking about what they're creating, what kind of lines they're making, all of it. Yeah, so the idea is just to dispel this concept of what people say gifted. You know, there are people who are like that, but it's not only exclusive to them. Yeah, pretty much anybody could pick this up if they dedicate themselves enough, if they really do take the time to study all this and practice. And I think part of that process, it's important to learn to be loose about it. You know, I think that really plays an important role in making your work look less rigid. You know, there's some people who learn by being incredibly technical. I mean, they're calculating pretty much everything, and they start off with very technical techniques. That's one way of going about it, but I think if you were to, as you guys noticed, quickly, loosely draw things out, it adds a kind of like a free spirit element to it, I want to say. You're not as constrained to like rigid rules and really minute, tiny little details immediately. You're kind of taking both processes, really. You're starting out loose, you're creating quick gesture lines, you're setting the parameters kind of and being like, okay, I want it to be this big, I want it to be this wide. And then from there, you just build it out to be more detail focused. But yeah, I think it's an important part of learning to draw. Don't get caught up in detail immediately. Don't hold the pencil all the way to the tip and press hard on the pencil. That all comes out in your work, kind of. It becomes kind of overworked, rigid, really rough lines. And you don't want to jump right into it. As you saw, when I first started out and I drew it out, it seemed like it wasn't going to fit within the parameters that I set out. It was going to be a little short. So I had to like shift things around a bit, or long, I forget which one. But I had to shift things around a bit. And if I started out by pressing really hard, that would have been impossible. I would have had to move on to the next page or the next section of the page to draw it again, because it's on that paper, it's ingrained, it's etched in, if I had actually pressed really hard. So it's not only just a technique, it's not just a style, there are some practical elements to sketching lightly, not having to hold it all the way close to the tip, that sort of thing. And I find that holding it at a distance allows that. You get greater range of motion for sketching. You know, this, as you could see, requires a lot more wrist work, and it becomes uncomfortable. Like, imagine drawing something down here. You have to actually move your arm. Whereas here, you're holding it at a distance. I could switch here quickly. I could switch here and do some things here and go back to the leg, you know, arm. It's less of this going around. So that's a personal thing. I think it really does carry some practical elements to it as well, but feel free to play around with it, see what is most comfortable for you, what gives you the results that you're looking for. Yeah, play around with it. That's the entire point of it. It's to find your way to loving the process, you know, loving the drawing process. And I'm just opening up multiple doors for you guys to try out. So that pretty much does for the review for the page. As I mentioned, this is something that it's useful to draw in the sketchbook. Maybe I'll do the leg as well. I'm trying to figure out whether I should do the leg and the hips and arms as well. Why not? There's still space. So I'm just going to do a quick one here. Now I'm taking a shortcut. Usually you want to start out with the circle. So like as I mentioned, start out with the circle. I'm going to draw the line down for it. Now notice I am using the head that I drew as a unit of measurement. So every time I'm going to draw the head, it's going to be the same size. From here down to here, that's another head. And this just demonstrates how the size of the leg basically. So, you know, we got one head here. So the height of the leg, as I mentioned here in this example and up here, is 2 heads. So 1 head width for the leg, 2 heads height. Because that is a question that you're going to have as you're drawing. You're going to be like, well, I know the height. I understand that it's supposed to be 2 heads, but what about the width? How wide is it supposed to be? And you could even measure it on here. It's supposed to be 1 head width at the widest point, 1 head width at the widest point of the leg. So it checks out. It makes sense. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom part of the leg. Now the bottom part of the leg is a little bit more narrow. So I'm going to draw the head again, same size, same width. But this time it's only going to be 3/4 of the head in terms of width. There's two ways of doing it. You could do it this way, which I'm showing you right now. Or you could just continue on from the knee of the upper part. So once you get to the knee from the upper part of the leg, that's already your width. That shows the width. And then from there, it's you're tapering things down towards the ankle. And again, the foot is, or the bottom part of the leg is also, it goes down to like about halfway to the point of the foot. So you see the bottom of the upper leg, it's about the same length as the bottom part of the leg, but past the foot. Or rather, half of the foot, not past it. So let this be your warm-up. You know, when you're sitting down to draw, you're learning to draw, you're learning the figure, let this be the warm-up. You just draw this again. You're reciting the alphabet more than once. You got to do it a couple of times, you know, in order to get it down. So the same idea comes to this. Draw it a couple of times, recite the height and width. You know, eventually you don't want to rely on this, right? You want to be able to just do it without it. So this is the perfect way of doing it. And then challenge yourself the next time you sit down to do it without it and try to recite and be like, how wide was the top part of the leg again? And try to draw it out and then check yourself later. Not while you're doing it, but check yourself later. Or look at it before you start and then just draw it. And then each time you sit down, try to look at it less and less. Make that the challenge for yourself, and that way you'll memorize it better. You'll internalize. You'll push yourself to focus more, to really pay attention and remember. Top part of the body is 4 heads. Bottom part of the body is 4 heads. 8 heads altogether. You know, just allow yourself to just memorize that over and over and over again. All right, y'all. So that's it for that part. I would like to let's see, should I go into the planes of the face? I'll save that for another time. But I will like to do a little demonstration. I'm probably gonna have to be quick about it because the stream is coming to an end. I'm gonna sketch it out the same way as I sketched out the body. Or, yeah, the figure. It's wild. I'm actually thinking about this now, that in California it's over 100 degrees right now. It's like 117 or something. It's awful, man. Like, I'm feeling a little hot right now. I'm guessing it's my computer is like really turning that fan. And it just reminded me of like what really hot is actually. Like, they're experiencing some heat right there. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't think people are really taking it seriously enough because they're like, oh, it's almost winter. But they're not really thinking about like, well, what's causing all this stuff? It can't be that we're using all these cars that are emitting these chemicals into the air and eventually cutting away at the ozone layer. Nah. Electric cars, man. That should have been the case a long time ago. In fact, they were available back in the 60s. But because of corporate greed and capitalism, General Motors shut down progress towards electric cars because it was going to take them out of business. And they didn't like that. So, you know, capitalism is more important than actually having normal environments. Actually being able to breathe air and not getting heat strokes. No, money is way more important than that. It's crazy. Greed is a sickness, and people don't treat it that way. The same level of denial as any other form of addiction. When people have it, they're in denial about it. And it applies the same thing to this, to greed. And I think every year it gets worse and worse. I mean, last year was pretty bad as well, with the floods. And then floods in Pakistan. And I think it's cities that experience a lot of that. And there is no trees around. when there's less and less vegetation around, those places tend to be really hot or get really hot. I wonder why. And to expect people who are profiting from it to actually care. Huge mistake on behalf of citizens. And that a huge mistake that they continue to enable and allow. Those companies, those people who aren't taking the right action, they will never grow conscious for it. You can't sit there and wait for them to do it. So, and that is probably the worst way to go about all of it. That's something that people just aren't grasping, that politicians and all these people who have the responsibility to do that are not going to wake up one day and say, I'm going to start doing my job. I'm going to stop exploiting, lying, manipulating, and pretending. I'm just going to start doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not going to happen. You have to push them to do it. You absolutely have to do that. And if you don't, it's just going to get worse. And they got all the money in the world to just not care. They're collecting all of our taxes. They're collecting all the profits from our hard work. And just telling us tough luck. Like, do your job while we avoid ours. And people fall for it. They're like, oh, well, they're telling us to do that. I guess they're right. You know, they're rich. It's like, duh. They've been exploiting you. And they're going to continue to gaslight you so that they can continue to exploit you. While the environment and the economy continues to just disintegrate. No one else is going to fix that aside from the citizens. That's a promise. It's an absolute promise. They have zero incentive to do it. So we gotta create the incentive. I think that's record-breaking heat, right? California, 117 degrees. You could toast your bread on your steps. Leave it out on the windowsill, and you're gonna get like a nice golden brown toast. And also, it's all the chemicals that are being dumped into the water that eventually go up into the air, right? They evaporate, they go up into the air, and that also damages the ozone layer and creates a lot of other problems. But that still continues to be a case. They dump oil in water, dump all sorts of things in water that eventually goes up into the atmosphere. And because it's getting so hot, the icebergs are melting, and that's sending extra water down the waves that ripple through. So yeah, floods. And that extra water is coming from somewhere. And people's indifference is what's making it worse. It doesn't affect me directly, so it doesn't matter. Until one day it does. And then they're like, oh crap, what do I do? Not too proud of this eyebrow.